Welcome back to Sibling Squabble. We have the number one answer still remaining up on the board, the category. Directors who are little freaks. All right, we got the Johnson family over here to see if they can crack it. All right, Jimmy. Directors who are little freaks. You got one strike remaining. What do you got? All right, Christian, my family and I, we have discussed, and I think we got it. All right, so we are going to go with Whoopi Goldberg. I ought to whoopee your ass for that answer. Whoopi Goldberg, is it up there? Whoopi Goldberg was not up there. Let's see what the final answer was.
Ari Aster is doing something completely bizarre right now, and I need to talk about it.
I saw Eddington a few weeks back. Went in blind, no trailers, no research.
And when I was walking out of the theater, it started to dawn on me that this guy is doing something that very few that have come before him have done this effectively. He is a true to form genre shapeshifter.
He has released 4 features, and every single one has been entirely different from the others. And this isn't a random 4-movie run. This is his first 4 movies. Horror, psychedelic folklore, surrealist dramedy, satirical neo-western.
So I got to thinking, what other directors have been able to pull this off? A 4-feature run of 4 different genres.
Kubrick, definitely. He has multiple 4-movie runs throughout his filmography that you could point to fitting this description.
Steven Spielberg, of course, he is the grand master of genre fluidity.
Rob Reiner with his run of Stand By Me, to The Princess Bride, to When Harry Met Sally, to Misery, to A Few Good Men for a bonus. Alfonso Cuarón with his run from Y Tu Mama Tambien all the way through Gravity.
Robert Zemeckis, Billy Wilder, Ang Lee, the Coen Brothers, Ridley Scott. But the thing is, the list starts to run dry pretty quickly. Names like Tarantino and Fincher feel more like genre adjacent than anything else. And when you look at the names that do make the cut, you realize they're all legends, icons of cinema. And now that we're 4 movies in, it's beginning to feel like Ari Aster's filmography is starting to take shape as one of the more unique or memorable ever. Stuff of legends and icons. And he's only getting started. All right. I hear you, and I know what you're probably thinking right now. Christian, Midsommar and Hereditary are both horror. What the hell are you talking about? Yes, you have a point, but I disagree.
Hereditary is a psychological, supernatural horror masterpiece. It is oppressive and claustrophobic, inspired by films more in the vein of Rosemary's Baby. Midsommar is sun-drenched, pastoral, and deceptively serene. It plays as a breakup drama, focused more on a toxic relationship, codependency, and rebirth through destruction.
While they both might fall under the grand horror umbrella, they both couldn't be more different. While some of their themes overlap, grief, loss, transformation, they couldn't be presented in more different ways.
These movies are the same genre in the same way that E.T. and Interstellar are the same genre. Both of those films could broadly be labeled as sci-fi,
but that's where the comparisons end.
There was a natural early career trajectory at play, going from Hereditary to Midsommar, but at the time, we didn't know what direction the trajectory was going to go. Now, the vision is clearer.
Now that we're 4 features into Ari Aster's filmography, these 2 movies feel more like distant relatives, where maybe 5 years ago, we would have said they're kind of like brother and sister. The first 2, Hereditary and Midsommar, are more alike in the same ways that Beau Is Afraid and Eddington are also alike. With each new film, you greater grow to understand the film that came before it. In a lot of ways, Eddington kind of unlocked Beau Is Afraid for me.
Back when Beau Is Afraid came out, I still saw Aster as a horror-focused director. Hereditary was a classic of the genre, still fresh in everyone's mind. Midsommar, while easy to pinpoint as a red herring now, was hailed on its own as a dark psychedelic journey.
So I think that's why I was confused when I saw Beau Is Afraid. This wasn't the Aster that I had came to know, although you could still find traces of him in there.
The cuts, the disturbing frames, the eerie soundscape, the highly disturbed characters and situations. But it absolutely wasn't Hereditary, and it wasn't Midsommar.
And I wanted Hereditary because that's the kind of director I assumed Ari Aster was going to be. But you know what they say about assuming. It makes an ass out of you and me.
I let Beau Is Afraid simmer for a bit after seeing it, but initially I wrote it off.
But then something weird happened. I found myself thinking a lot about this movie. I found my writing being influenced by this movie. Even when I was thinking through shot lists for little shorts I was shooting in my head, I found the shots being influenced by this movie.
That is when it clicked. I don't think Aster has any intention of being a horror director at all. I think he likes exploring dark themes. I think he likes scoping out the darker sides of humanity. But I don't think his objective was ever to be a horror director.
And there was evidence of this even dating back to before Hereditary.
Dating back to some of the short films Aster made in the early 2010s. Shorts like The Strange Thing About the Johnsons, Munchausen, and Beau, the short film that Beau Is Afraid was based off of.
Aster cares way more about exploring and exposing vices than he does about making a movie overtly scary. And as he continues to find his voice, it almost seems like he would prefer to do this in darkly humorous and ridiculous ways.
Eddington was hilarious in a dark and aggressively cynical kind of way. The chaos, absurdity, and disorientation of Eddington perfectly mirrored the chaos, absurdity, and disorientation that was the COVID era. There wasn't a stone left unturned in regards to picking apart some of the more ridiculous social and political angles that digested early 2020s culture.
At the end of Beau Is Afraid, he quite literally put a spotlight on Beau.
A not so subtle reference to the judgment, self-consciousness, and anxiety that Beau felt. But it also felt like a jab at us, the viewers.
A way of saying, congratulations, just like everyone else that Beau encountered in this movie, you also judged him. With Eddington, Aster put more of a metaphorical spotlight on all of us viewers, himself included.
Take a look at how much we have all lost our minds. It's pretty funny, right? And yes, it is funny.
But then you realize the jokes we're watching are actually happening. So at this point, I think Aster has gotten the place that he was aiming for all along. There's no more predictability left. We don't know what the next Aster film will be. And that's the point. The Hereditary guy label is gone.
And when you think about it, that's exactly what the greats do. Kubrick never let you guess what was next. Spielberg could go from a shark terrorizing a beach town to an alien healing a child's heart. Rob Reiner could pivot from a coming-of-age drama to a fairy tale to a rom-com to a psychological thriller without breaking a stride.
They were unpredictable in a way that kept audiences chasing after them. Because the only thing that was predictable about them was that they were going to be unpredictable. And that is where Ari Aster is right now.
4 films in, and each one has redefined him. Or, maybe more accurately, each one has refused to define him. That's a dangerous place to operate from. It's risky, it alienates some fans and confuses others.
But it's also where careers shift from being promising to being mythic. And here's the thing, in the modern era, this kind of run is exceptionally rare. Studios, they want brands. They want to be able to label guys as the comedy director or the action director or the superhero director. Aster isn't giving them that. And yet he's still getting his visions funded, he's still working on his own terms, and he's still building a body of work that feels like it could only exist in his voice. Shout out to A24 for that.
When you zoom out, his trajectory feels less like a straight line and more like a constellation. 4 stars scattered across entirely different corners of the sky, each burning with the same strange light but shining in its own distinct way. Hereditary's oppressive occult nightmare, Midsommar's sunlit folk tragedy, Beau's surreal odyssey into paranoia and absurdity, Eddington's satirical neo-Western meltdown of the early 2020s.
Different galaxies, same author. And that's why I think Ari Aster is already brushing up against the rare air of the greats. Not because every film he's made is universally loved, they're not, and not because he's mastered every genre that he's taken a crack at, though he's come pretty close,
but because he's building a filmography with the kind of unpredictability, ambition, and thematic through line that lasts. 5, 10, 20 years from now, people won't talk about Aster as the guy who made Hereditary. They'll talk about him as one of the few directors who had the nerve and the skill to never repeat himself, to go where the story took him, even if that meant losing a part of his audience along the way.
That's the mark of a career that's worth studying, debating, and revisiting for decades to come. So, maybe that's the bizarre thing I felt when walking out of Eddington. It wasn't just that I had seen a great film, it was the realization that I was watching a director write his own legend in real time. And like all legends, we don't fully understand them until the story's over. Until then, all we can do is sit around and wait for the next chapter. Because if Ari Aster has taught us anything, it's that the moment we think we've figured him out, he's already somewhere else entirely. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Thank you for continuing to like, subscribe, and follow my videos. I'm truly appreciative, and I will see you next time.